We have so many rules that we have to follow. I think that we go through life thinking we have to walk the straight and narrow line to gain any kind of success. And I, for one, am a product of the opposite. I've been out of line so many times, but I've still landed on my feet and have had a little success in my life. This show is going to tell you stories from successful leaders who didn't follow a straight path because they knew that only created followers. And here we're going to talk about real life stories from people who have built extremely successful staffing businesses. So here it's okay to get out of line. We actually demand it. Getting out of line is exactly how my guest today, Gene Rice, built his career. Long before he was nationally recognized as an executive, recruiter, and chairman of Rice Cohen International, he was learning about people and business in the service industry. He was a bar owner, and his unconventional start is really what fueled his success and led him to mentor thousands of others, and even co-authoring the book Grad to Grown with his daughter, Courtney. Gene's story is proof that you don't have to walk a straight and narrow line to win.
I looked at your background. I'm very impressed. I love what you're doing with the whole women's, really encouraging them in business. So I think what you're doing is great, Tiffany. That's why I really wanted to be a guest. What would you want to talk about?
I would love to talk more about your earlier years. You've got a pretty fascinating story that you started in the music, right?
Rock and roll business.
Yeah, we've got to talk about that.
Thank God I got out of it. I'd be dead by now. I'd definitely be divorced, right?
No, it seems like your wife has kept you pretty grounded, right?
She's my greatest blessing, Tiffany. All right? Greatest blessing.
Honestly, if you wouldn't mind, I would love to talk a little bit about that because founders, business owners, CEOs, successful relationships are not typical. How many years have you been married now? It's
42 years.
Oh my gosh.
Aunt Gloria, Tiffany, said it wouldn't last. Our Aunt Gloria said it wouldn't last. And like what one person said to me recently, well, she's dead. She's not here anymore anyway. So don't worry about it. I'm like, yeah, you're right. She's not here.
Is that on your side or her side, Aunt Gloria?
Her side.
Her side, that's probably because you were a rebel rock and roller at the time, right?
And she was a speech pathologist in a school district. Have you identified, Tiffany, what you want your audience to be? Like who you're targeting?
Staffing. I think staffing people have the most fun, crazy, fascinating stories. And we're always in this corporate setting where we have to be cookie cutter. And you know what? We need to tell some fun staffing stories and hear how people grind through this industry. I think it's the most underrated industry. I think it's one of the toughest out there. And especially to have a business where you not only stayed for many years, you scaled. So 90%
I'll tell you what, I mean, Tiffany, for me, and this is something I talk about a lot, I think it's really, really important. One of the goals in life, I always believe, and I share with young people, is to find something that you sincerely love doing and then doing it well enough that you can earn a living doing it. It gives you purpose and gives you passion, right? There's so many people that wake up every morning and just go to do something for a paycheck, right? I found that. Like no matter how big the company became, I never stopped working with the clients and the candidates because that's what gave me purpose, right? I placed over 1,000 senior level people. My company placed tens of thousands, but I loved the hands-on. I loved getting to know the executives. I loved working closely with with the clients. That's where I got my passion and my purpose from.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have stayed in it. I'll tell you, we started off contingency. We were part of a franchise operation initially, and we were their Office of the Year 7 years in a row. And I wouldn't have stayed in the business, Tiffany, if it was a contingency model. It was so transactional.
Yeah.
If we didn't move to an executive retained model where you worked exclusively with the clients, you got paid whether you found them or not, I would not have stayed in the industry. That was really important in making the move.
I have a confession. I bought your book.
Oh, you did?
And on Amazon, what they say was the last copy. So we need some more copies out there. Yes, I took a screenshot just in case. It said one left. Hurry up. So I did. I was like, buy now. I didn't even go to my cart.
You know what? They did a reprint too. Oh my God.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, listen, as long as it's helping people, I'm really glad I did it,
So did you write that with your daughter?
Yeah, it was great. So My daughter's a high school English teacher.
Yeah.
So I basically recorded every chapter and then she put it into the written form. And it was a great journey. It was such a cool thing to do. And I talk about her in the book and having passion. And, you know, she went to Lehigh. She had a double major in English and economics, had a 3.96 GPA.
Wow.
They paid for her for a master's degree. She thought she wanted to be a lawyer, Tiffany, right?
Yeah.
Wanted to be a lawyer. And I've had so many experience with young people that I've mentored that became lawyers, took all these college loans and then hated it. And I convinced her, I said, listen, you know, before you do that, let's see, I'll help you write the email. Let's try to find a local law firm that will take you in this summer and expose you to everything being a lawyer. And people will take you in, Tiffany, especially if you say you're willing to work for free, right?
Yeah.
So we had a local law firm take her in, and I really owe this person a lot. He exposed her to everything about being a lawyer.
Wow.
Took her to the courtroom 3 times, took her all the research, the admin. When the summer was over, she said, Dad, I don't want to be a lawyer. And thank God I was going to
That's
a bunch of it. So,
yeah.
and she said, but my passion was always being a school teacher. But
Mm.
coming out of Lehigh, all of her friends were going into investment banking, management consulting, law.
Mhm.
She felt it was under her. And I said,
Mm.
the goal in life is to find something you sincerely love doing and then doing it well enough that you can make a living doing it. If you're passionate about that, go do it. And when I tell you, when she walks into that classroom, she loves it. She's in heaven. Her
That's
students,
amazing.
the school she teaches at, it's a Quaker high school, the George School. They took the book and the seniors have to take a course on the book. And
Wow.
I've gotten exposure to a
That's
lot of
great.
students, which is really, really cool. And that's one of the things I talk about. I want people to find things that they really love doing and then figure out how to make a living. And I tell them how to get internships, how to make sure the passion is real, how to get
Yeah.
your foot in the door.
How do you find that? I know for myself, I accidentally came into recruiting. And then now leadership, I think, is really a big part of that. But it was an accident for me. I don't know if I would have known how to find that. What do you tell people on how to find their passion?
I've done a couple of things, right? I had a young person who wanted to go and become a vet. And I
Mhm.
said to her, do you know how much schooling's involved with becoming a vet? Do you have any experience? And I helped her do the research to identify. And a local vet took her in that summer and she worked 3 days a week. And at the end of the summer, she sent me an email going, I am so excited about being a vet. And I think now you have some hands-on experience, right?
Yeah.
Last night I had dinner with a young woman. She's 28 years old. She's an engineer. You know, she's a really bright girl. Hates being an engineer. Hates it, right? Just absolutely hates it. So now she's trying to pivot. We take in 4 college interns every summer into Rice Cohen
Okay.
National. I'd spend an hour with them, Gene's life lessons, sharing with them things I wish I knew when I was going into my senior year.
Mm.
And then what came out of it is all of these questions. I was like very surprised how ill prepared they were. Really bright kids, not only
Mm.
to start their professional careers, but their personal careers. I hate hearing these young people come back to me and they hate what they're doing and they had no hands-on experience before they did it. You got to have some hands-on experience before you dedicate 4 years
Yeah.
of college and grad school to this. But to answer your original question, you know, how do you know? I did not know. When
Mm.
I went into executive search, I was in corporate America. I was with a division of a Fortune 100 firm. I went from sales management to general management to district management. My last position was heading up East Coast operations with 1,500 people. We had
Wow.
offices in every major city. We had a young family, Tiffany,
Mm.
was never home at night. There were
Yeah.
some days that I was in 2 cities on the same day. I just wanted to be home. I was making a lot of money. I needed to have a life change for my family.
Mhm.
I took Jeff, who was my general manager of the Philadelphia area. I grabbed him and him and I started the business. Now, we went into executive search because we had used recruiters when we were in management. We thought we could add some value, you know?
Wow.
And then in looking at that, I didn't realize I'd spent 30 years in this field. But what I
Wow.
found is purpose.
Mm.
I really woke up every day and loved what I was doing. I loved it. the personal relationships I established, And Jeff and I were part of the largest recruiting franchise at the time. There was over 1,000 officers. $1 billion company came after us. We were young. We didn't want to sell. And then I'm talking to a neighbor, and the neighbor says to me, "Hey, Gene, I know you love your house, but if someone drove up to your house, rang your doorbell, and offered you 10 times what your house is worth, would you sell it?" And I said, "I probably have to think about it." He says, "Well, you should return some of those calls." We really recognized the company grew the way it grew because of the team we had. So we gave them a dollar for dollar match on their 401k. We gave them
Mm,
a profit sharing plan that every single year gave them 15% of what their W-2 was. We
wow.
paid for their total health benefits at the time. And we had a convention, we did trips. And if you're selling the company, all of a sudden your benefits go away, and it
Yeah.
went down to like 25 cents. So I said,
Mm,
I can't sell this company and feel that my team didn't reap anything out of this.
right.
Finally, $1 billion company. And I said, in my mind, one plus one has to equal more than two, or why would you do it? And at that time, $1 billion, multi-billion-dollar staffing company came to us, and they had 187 offices around the world. They wanted to put a Rice Cohen office in each one of their offices.
Wow.
And I said to Jeff, I said, "Wait a second, this one plus one equals more because we always chose to come out of one location." Rice Cohen International for a couple of years was the largest retained search firm out of one location. We have 65 employees, right?
Wow.
But we had clients that came to us and said, "Listen, that executive you put into Chicago, I need one in Thailand." We
Hmm.
couldn't.
Right.
That executive that you put in to San Francisco, I need one in Berlin. We'd have to hand that off. And that allowed other search firms. So I said, okay, that's advantage. And they gave us giant carrots if we grew the company the same percentage. And
Hmm.
we grew the company we blew it away those 2 years. The third
That's
year,
amazing.
we said we're leaving. And then we had a 2-year non-compete. That's we did the training. So we developed training programs. And what we did for 18 straight months, we'd go into a different city in the world. And the first 2 days, we met with 50 owners of search firms in that city.
Mm,
Last 3 days, we met with the top 100 recruiters on the Rice Cohen model. And
okay.
we sold out 18 months in a row.
Wow.
Then we were doing some consulting on the side. My partner loved it, Tiffany. I was bored out of my mind. After you do it a few times, it was this thing.
Is the same thing over?
I was
Yes.
bored out of my mind. I can't. And then an opportunity came. The company downsized. There was a little bit of a recession. The whole dot-com thing,
Mm,
and they kept trying to sell the company back to us. And when we made a deal with them, they had 2 more years on the lease of the building that we owned.
hmm.
We let them out of the 2 years, and we got the name back and the
That's
software. And then at this point, we came back and we're like, "Listen, we just gotta I don't wanna have 1,000,000 directors in each vertical." I did my
right.
vertical, he did his vertical. The staff is about 20 people.
Okay.
I transitioned it. I sold it to my son and my son-in-law. They're running it day to day. I sit on the board. Jeff went and he's doing his whole thing. We're still best friends, best
That's
friends
great.
in the world. But that's the whole story. But I wouldn't have
That's
stayed in
great.
it if I was just managing it and leading it, I wouldn't have stayed in it that long, you know?
It's funny. 90% of startups fail, right? I think what you're saying is part of why it was so successful is because you were hands-on, you were passionate, and you loved it. Why do you think people fail even if they have that passion? What have you seen other business owners lack?
Here's the thing.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
Here's the thing, Tiffany. Here's what I found, right? We knocked the cover off the ball. We did more revenue the first year than any other this franchise had ever done. What I found is you have people go into executive recruiting or staffing. They were in HR, right? They were in operations. If you're building a startup in our industry and you're not strong in the business development side of it, it's really difficult. That's where I found the biggest disconnect. The other biggest disconnect is there's no elevator to success. You got to take the stairs. You got to show up every day. You got to put
Yeah.
the time in. You got to put the effort in. You got to be hands on. And that's what me and my partner were. And I think that's why it worked really, really well for us.
I thought about you this morning. We hadn't even met yet. I had one of those mornings, Gene, that just set me off. I spilled my coffee. I was dropping things. The kids left a mess, and I was reminded of a video that you did on LinkedIn recently about somebody you're mentoring and how they were complaining all the time. So, kind of what snapped me out of it. Well, here's what I thought of you. I went into the gym and the same guy's there every morning. I'm like, oh, how you doing? He goes, the same shit, different day. And I was like, I think that's me right
Yeah.
now. And that's miserable. For me, that's not natural. I am unfortunately a little skeptical. I'm a little pessimistic. So I have to really work some days at getting myself out of it. I've been lucky enough to have mentors and I've been self aware. I think that was one thing I had to overcome. So you talked about recently having to call out somebody for this very thing. Can you tell a little bit about who you're mentoring and what happened?
Thank God I was able to post that because he got kicked off LinkedIn, this guy, right? But every time I said, what do you have to do to get kicked off LinkedIn? I have no idea. I have no idea. Every time he asked me if I would mentor, I said, sure. But every time I'm talking to him, he's complaining. He's talking about
Yeah.
his boss. He's talking about his coworkers. And finally, if I was there, I would have taken him by the ears and just shook him a little bit. But finally, I said,
Yeah.
enough. You're a duck. You sound like a duck. He's like, what do you mean I'm a duck? I said, all you do is quack. You're quacking, quacking, quacking.
Love
Yes,
that.
I said, you have the talent. I've talked to you. You have the talent to be an eagle. You have a talent to soar above this. I need you to be an eagle, you know? And he got upset with me, you know? I said, but then he called me back and I was really impressed with this. And he goes, I heard you. And, how do I become an eagle? You know? And
Wow.
then
That wasn't easy.
I said to him, I said, listen, change can't happen without awareness. You now
Mm,
have awareness. Okay. You now know. Don't be the person by the water cooler complaining. Be the person that makes that person feel better. Show up every day. Don't expect your manager to always give you clear direction or give you the time you need. Take it
right.
on yourself. Be a self starter. And I'm working with him on it and he's getting better and he's aware, Tiffany. But as you know, I mean, I'm sure you've met this. There's certain people in life that look at the glass half full. There's other people
Hmm.
that look at it half empty. There's some people that look at the glass overflowing. There's some people that there's 20 holes in the bottom of the glass, right? How much more fun is it to spend time with the person where the glass is overflowing?
Is that natural for you to just have that cup overflowing? How'd you become that way?
Do I have bad days too? Yeah, everybody has bad days. We're human beings, Tiffany, right? What I try to do is I try to focus on the positives. Every single night when we put our heads on the pillow, my wife and I will share at least 3 things that happened that day that we're grateful for. And it could be as simple as the sun coming out, or I really enjoyed my breakfast today, right? But I found that the more you can focus on what you're grateful for, the easier it is
Yeah.
to get over those bad days, right? So that's one of the things I do that helps me, you know. And I've been very blessed in my life. I don't take it for granted. I've been very blessed. And I have this amazing partner who's been by my side,
Right.
for 42 years. So
Now that's incredible. Can you talk a little bit about how you guys met and where you met?
well, I'm from Long Island, and so is my wife. And I was going to St. John's. And back then, the best job you could have is being a bartender in a bar. So, I went and got a job in this little small bar that used to have like 1 or 2 piece acts. And then it expanded and I started hiring the staff. I became the manager. Then I started hiring the bands. And we had a very unique theme, Tiffany. It was the home of original music. We didn't care what kind of music you played as long as it was your music. We
Oh,
had
that's
live
cool.
music 7 nights a week,
Wow.
and then twice a month, we'd bring in the national recording acts. So we had acts like the Ramones, Joan Jett, the Stray Cats started in my club, right? Rick
Wow.
Ravens, Bo Diddley. And they all saw it. My wife came into my club. I saw her, and that's how we first met. Now, she was a speech pathologist teaching in the school district. I left my first club, and I was young. I was cocky. I didn't like one of my partners who was an older gentleman who was penny wise and dollar foolish. I hired the staff, hired all the acts. I'm saying, one day I just said, I'm leaving. If you don't sell your share, I'm leaving. I didn't think it out. It was an
Yeah.
ego thing. Because my
Okay.
can't believe that's how he was supporting his family, putting his kids through college. You know, it was a lesson. It took me a year. It takes a long time to get a liquor license in New York. Took me a year to find the place. I couldn't open within 10 miles of my existing place.
Oh,
And I went from this club that was really popular doing the radio station was doing live broadcasts, and it had a small incorporated village police force that took care of me. I sponsored their
oh,
softball team. They had their Christmas party at my club. Nothing could happen where they didn't watch out for me. I open up, I buy this place. It was an old man's bar that were connected to a catering hall. So, and it had what was called a legal cabaret license. You were allowed to have live music, which was very hard to get. I knocked the wall down and I opened up with Twisted Sister, right? The
my God.
town goes bonkers, bonkers. The police are there every day. They put in a special noise violation thing just for my club. It was a
Oh,
battle. It was a battle. And my wife finally said to me, listen, I wanted to get married. She goes, I'll only marry you if you leave this business. And
wow.
thank God she gave me the ultimatum, because if I was still in that business, I'd be dead, first of all. It was a lot of fun, Tiffany, a lot of fun, but
When you're young, yeah, I'm
it was not
sure.
the kind of business, that you really create a family life around. So that's how we got
Well,
together. And thank God she married me.
that's an incredible story. You have a true partnership. We talk about how many failed relationships there are when you just have regular jobs, but when you're building and scaling a business and your focus is that you become torn sometimes. How did you guys make it to 42 years throughout
Well,
all of these steps?
we'd have quota makers every month where we take the team out. My wife was always there with me.
Mm,
So she would be right by my side. She was always part of it. She got to know all my staff members, right? So I
mm,
always included her in every aspect I could with the business. She never was involved in the business. We
right.
made a decision. She left teaching. She had a private consulting business. We wanted her home with the kids. We have 4 children, and she did an amazing job, and that worked. And I think her and I, 1 plus 1 equaled more than two. We made each other
I
better.
love that.
There's no one there's no one that can say something to me that's more impactful than what she says, and we really have a lot of fun together. That's the most important. We have a
Well,
lot of
that's huge.
yeah.
There is something too that I have that with my kids. I've mentored women and moms and career moms. And the first question, 9 times out of 10, is how do you have good work life balance? I'm like, you don't. That's a myth. Has to be full circle. You have to integrate your worlds. And from a young age, I always brought my kids in. "Oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Oh, look, this is what I'm working on." Also reinforcing to them. So that's why we go on a vacation, is because mom does this at her job. So I think that communication piece is so underrated because it doesn't take much to tell somebody about your day and then include them. And it goes so far when they have that understanding of what you're doing when you're not around.
And the one thing I will tell you, Tiffany, and this is something I'm kind of proud of, when we went into executive search, I didn't want to live on an airplane. But the retained world back then was
Right.
everybody traveling. We were one of
Yeah.
the first search firms to put video teleconferencing in, right?
Really?
So we would use video teleconferencing and tape the interviews and sell the clients on the advantage of it.
Wow.
But I also made a decision, and me and my partner made this decision. We were told that when we went into the business, you're going to have to be on the phone at night, talking to candidates that can't talk to you during the day. And I said, I'm not going to accept that. I'm working in
Good for you.
I'm working a retained search that they can only hear about through me. And if they can't find time between 9 and 5 to talk to me, then they're the wrong candidate or it's the wrong time. And
Wow.
I would not go home and be on the telephone. I was nonstop on the phone or interviewing people during the day, but I wasn't going to take it home, and it worked and it was powerful.
I love that. I love that.
I would tell your staffing people, you have to work at it. You got to have a model. You got to first figure out what work-life balance means to you. And
Right.
I'll share something else with you, Tiffany. This is something that's important that I talk to a lot of senior executives about. Yet, have you ever heard the term a linchpin?
Yeah.
A linchpin is a pin that is at the end of a wheel. And as long as the pin stays in place, the wheel stays in place. But
Right.
if that pin falls out, the wheel collapses and everything collapses. What I try to encourage people is I need to understand your linchpin. What are the things you need
Mm.
every day, every week, every month to keep the pin in place, to keep you spinning and turning? Myself, no matter how busy work was, if I could meditate, if I could exercise, if I spent some time reading, okay, and I spent some family time, everything else I could keep aligned. I could keep the wheel in place. I really got stressed and I went back and I was honest with myself. I started taking some of those things out of my daily or weekly routine and it caught up to me. It catches up to all of
Yeah.
us. So I would encourage you. What is your, you got two young boys. What is your linchpin, Tiffany? What are the
What do you
things you have to do to keep that wheel in place?
Man, we need a part 2 to get into all of that. I think that that's gonna be my huge takeaway for me. I'm probably focusing on all the wrong things or too much of the wrong things. Like, that's a really, really great analogy. I love that.
And Tiffany, I'm telling you, I know if I showed you resumes of some of the candidates I placed as CEOs or presidents, and I showed you the resumes, you'd say, oh my God, this is the most amazing executive I've seen on paper. But if you got to know them the way I got to know them,
Mhm.
they're on their third marriage. They miss
Ugh,
their kids' Little League games. They miss their daughter's piano recital. They may have professional success, but they don't have personal success, or in my
yeah.
opinion, life success. They don't have they haven't identified what their linchpin is. They don't know those things they have to do to keep their life and the wheel in balance, you know? So it's not just young people that struggle with this. It's very
Oh, yeah.
successful people that struggle with this.
I want to talk a little bit more about your wife and your partnership because you guys started what I think is one of the best charities that I've ever heard of. Can you tell us a little bit about your charity? How did it start and what you guys are doing now?
Well, let me ask you a question. How old are
Yeah.
your boys?
12 and 14 on Sunday.
What do they enjoy doing? What are they involved in?
Basketball.
Okay.
They're both obsessed.
Okay. Well, and so was my son. Now, you go to the underserved community and there are families. A lot of them are single parent families. And we've had a couple of basketball kids. There's not money to put them on the AAU team.
Hmm.
There's not money even to play on the travel team. So what happens to that young person? Right? I know how important it is that young people have passions in their lives because you know why? Number one, it might be the only ray of sunshine on a cloudy day or a cloudy week. Number two, what does it do? The basketball coach, maybe it's the guitar teacher, maybe it's the karate sensei. You put them with the right mentor, the right coach, the right teacher. Relationships are established, maturing happens. Depending on the activity, shifts develop, right? And if you take that away from young people, I believe that's when kids go in different directions. So my wife and I identifying that, and it all came from, I used to be on the board of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And my wife really enjoyed going out and we would fulfill some of these wishes. And we were fulfilling this young man's wish who wanted to go on a shopping spree. And we picked him up. He had a brother and he was being raised by his grandmother. We took him on a shopping spree and his brother kept talking about baseball, baseball, baseball. And I said, well, what little league team are you on? Oh, no, we don't have the money for that. Have a mitt. No, we don't even have a mitt. Have you ever played baseball? Like he's telling me
Right.
all about the Phillies. And I'm like, you
Yeah.
know, Make a Wish was about helping a sick child, but he wasn't sick. I'm like, you
Yeah.
know what? So my wife and I helped him. I said, there's got to be a way. There's got to be a charity that helps those other kids that have passions but don't have the financial resources. And every family goes through highs and lows financially. We do it from New Jersey to the Philly surrounding area because we want to meet the kids. We want to be in
Mhm.
their lives. We want to meet the parent. We bring them in. It starts off with a yearly scholarship. We find them the mentor or the trainer or the sensei. We make sure that person buys into the charity and will buy into committing to the kid. Up to 891 kids that we've helped.
Wow. That's incredible.
And Tiffany, honestly, I tell people this all the time. My wife and I get more out of it than what we give.
Mm.
Meaning, we meet these kids and we meet the parents, and every time we leave there, we say, "What a blessing! Was that amazing? Just getting to know that young person." So
Yeah.
and you're in the Philadelphia area, and your podcast is if they know anyone that has young children who's maybe the family struggling financially and they have a passion, go to our website, plantaseedfoundation.org. You can apply right online, and we look forward to hearing from you, you know?
You found such a gap. And I think it's just great what you guys are doing. How would somebody get involved? Do you take volunteers? Do people help you or donations?
It's funny, Tiffany. We actually hired staff and we would do this big fundraiser every year. But every year it was all friends and family and clients. I'm like, I don't want to ask the same people.
Right.
So thank God we've been blessed. We self-funded. We developed a trust. Like right now we have, I think, 34 kids every week that go to activities. And we personally said we want to run it. We want it to be hands-on. So we're not looking, we're not even doing fundraising in the past and a lot of that, but right now we just want to meet the kids.
Will you take donations if somebody wanted to offer
Sure. Yeah,
you?
absolutely. We don't say no. We don't say
Yeah.
no. And people surprise us. The book we wrote was published by Post Hill Press. Everything, the money and you tell me it was the last one. I'm shocked.
The last one, I got it.
Any money that comes out just for me gets donated. I put it right into the charity. It helps more.
That's
Yeah.
That feels great. It's a bestseller on Amazon. Obviously, it's sold out currently because I got the last copy.
It was a reprint. So I got to call my agent.
I can't wait to read it now. I was excited before, but now that's high in demand. It's even better. I mean, you weren't busy enough. How did you find the time, and where did the idea come from? And tell us a little bit about it.
The idea
Yeah.
came from those 4 college interns that came in every summer.
Okay.
And they kept asking me to write a book. You got to put this in a book. Got to write a book. You got to write a book. And I said, okay. And my daughter, she was having her first child, and it gave her a chance to stay home with me and write the book together. And it was just all these things I talked to these interns about. I put into the 68 small chapters. I love books that
Yeah.
are very small chapters. There's 5 different
Mhm.
sections of it. One
Mhm.
is life, a job search. But another one of the things I talk about, Tiffany, which I think is really important, and so many people don't understand this. I believe another goal in life should be everyone should want to become what I call a grand master of interviewing, right?
Mm.
What is a grand
Oh,
master?
so
Everybody
true.
knows what a grand master of chess is, right? The best of the best. And I
Mhm.
found that so many, even at the college kids, they go to the career centers, they're all training them the same way. They don't know how to separate. So in the book, there's a whole section on, okay, how do you become a grand master? How do you professionally become the best of the best? So when you interview for that job that you really want, and you're up against tough competition, how do you get the offer, number one, and how do you get the highest salary? It walks them through that. The book will walk them through how important it is to find that other goal, to find something you sincerely love doing, and then figure out a way to make a living doing it. It takes them through how do you identify your passion? How do you find out if it's real? How do you go get that internship so you make sure it's real? And then how do you go get interviews? How do you set yourself up for interviews, right?
Yeah.
Takes them through the whole thing. Then it goes on to now that you've gotten this job you want, career. How do you show up? How do you,
Mm.
are you ready to show up? So you
Right.
can be successful. It goes into health and relationships. And then I share with them a whole section on finance, how I created great wealth and how little things that might help them that I did. So there's 5 sections, 68 small chapters, and I'd be real curious what your feedback is on it once you read it.
I feel like those are the types of things that should be in high school lessons. Like, to be learning about those things later in life, I think, is such a failure.
Well, I
Eh,
told you, my daughter, her high school, there's a senior, every senior has to take a course on the book.
whoever decided that should be the one managing our educational system. We've talked a lot about successes and you've had a lot of them. Let's flip it a little bit. The mistake you made or a failure that you had and what'd you get out of it?
Let me tell you this story. So here I am managing, and I own one third of this super, super successful club. And the two partners brought me into it. They made me an equal one third partner. They made me a deal I couldn't refuse. Both of them went into retirement and I was doing everything. And I loved one of them. One of them was really very, very supportive. And he was younger like me, only a little bit older. The older one was just all about money. And that's not what I was about. So I called him out one day, I booked the Ramones and he did not like that I paid a lot of money for the Ramones when we couldn't, if we had just a local band, the place was packed anyway on a weekend. Why did we have to pay a popular band like that?
Right.
I said, I've told you this, by having a band like that, it gives the club exposure, and the nights Monday through Thursday, all of a sudden they get busier. It puts the club in a different kind of hemisphere. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I remember one night I gave the bouncers an extra $5, right? Because it was super, super busy. And he called me up in the morning. I hadn't seen the guy in 2 weeks, but he called me up in the morning saying, "What are you doing giving the bouncers an extra $5?" I'm like, did you see how unbelievably busy it was? And he goes, "Well, when it's slow, do you take $5 away from them?" And I said,
Oof.
I can't be your partner. I said, giving them that $5 saves them from stealing money at the door. It shows them that
Yeah.
what they're doing. So one day I just said, "You sell or I'm selling. If I'm not selling,
Mhm.
then I'm out of here. Give me what you owe me. I'm out of here." Took me a year to get a liquor license to find a place. I was, you know, all of a sudden, the real popular Gene who ran this club, everyone knew all the bands. I'm a year on the sideline. He was very influential in working with the politicians in town and the police force. I took that for granted. I
Mm.
opened my own place, right? So I was, my ego got in the way. I made an ego decision. If I was more calculated, I would have found the next place, had it already set up if I was going to do that before I left, right? I would have crossed my T's and dotted my I's more.
Right.
But the lesson from that was I never took success for granted again, Tiffany.
Uh,
That was the lesson that I learned.
how did that shape your decisions then?
More calculated. So when we went into the search business, right, my partner and we looked at, I can't tell you how many businesses we looked at.
Mm.
And there was one that we almost came very close to going into. It was a medical device company out of China. They were looking for American distributors. They really liked me and Jeff, and we were going to do it. And I remember saying to Jeff, "Wait a second, we could be the greatest sales guys in the world. They're
Mhm.
telling us, but we can go into, let's say we go into Penn Hospital and we get a big sale and they say they'll be able to ship it to us within 2 weeks. We didn't want to have a warehouse and it shows up 5 weeks later. We're going to get one shot and then we're out the door." So we actually bought something from their Canadian distributor and it took like 9 weeks to come. And I'm like, you know what, Jeff, we need to be in a business where success is based on us.
Mm.
If we fail, it's because of what we failed doing, not something out of our control. You know,
Yeah.
maybe if I hadn't gone through that in the bar business, maybe we would have done that medical device thing because it
Right.
was a really good deal at the time.
Wow. That's a great lesson. You're also big on journaling. How did that start? And are you still journaling to this day?
I journal every day. And to
Wow.
me, it's a gift to the next generation,
Mm.
Tiffany. That's how I look at it. I want to know that if I have a grandchild or a great grandchild that wants to know about what was going on in our family's life at this time, they can go back
Yeah.
we have over 25 years of these journals, right?
Wow.
And they can go back. We've actually put it in our will. There's someone, someone who's in charge of how that's going to be managed,
Wow.
right? And it's something I really believe. I think I talk about this in the LinkedIn. It was a gift. I had an aunt who I didn't know very well and a cousin who I hadn't seen in probably 40 years. The aunt passed away and this cousin who was in North Carolina was going through her stuff and found a letter that my grandfather had written to my father. And I had never known either of my grandfathers. And she
Wow.
sent me this and said, I thought you might want to read this,
Hmm.
that our grandfather wrote to your father. And it was such a loving, kind letter. And the stories I had heard about him, he was a very harsh man. It gave a whole different perspective
Mm.
where I really wished I had other things I could read from him. And I said, you know what? I know what that meant to me, that one letter. I said, you know what? If life is worth living, it's worth recording. So to me, I started that. And every major event in my life since then has been in there, you know, and I try to write every single day in there.
Do you go back and read any of the what
Yeah,
you've
I
written?
do. I do. I do. I love showing my grandchildren each day that they were born. I put something in it. I write something, I have a picture.
That's so special. 25 years of now memories for
I
your
wish I
family.
wish I had more. I wish I
Yeah.
had more than the 25. I wish I had started it earlier.
Well, I feel guilty. I haven't journaled since I was a kid, and I don't even know where they are. So I'm getting a lot from Eugene. A lot of things I need to improve, I think, which is good.
I'm going to share one last thing. I mean, my wife, you talk about my wife, right? And this is a chapter in the book. It's about creating family traditions. The first year we were married, and I would love to tell you it was my idea, but it was someone, a friend of hers parents did it. And basically, the first year, a little piece of paper with a pen, over the holiday season, we wrote a note to each other. And there were certain rules. It had to stay on this little piece of paper.
Okay.
We now have 42 years of those notes.
Wow.
And our whole lives pass in front of us in those notes. We read them each year to each other before we write
I
that
love
year's
that.
note, right? And if you read the first year, you would think I was a moron, right? By the last year, I'm writing so small to get everything in, Tiffany, right?
Yeah.
Now, what we do when we're invited to a wedding, besides giving a monetary gift, we give them a box, we give them the note paper, pens, and we write a little bit.
Wow.
We've had young people come back to us and say, "Oh my God, what a great gift this has been," you know?
I've never heard of that. That's amazing. What would you tell somebody who's interviewing? Say they have an interview tomorrow. What's one thing that they should do to prepare for the interview?
Number one, do your homework before.
Okay.
Understand who you're meeting with. Try to link in with them on LinkedIn. Google them. And then, because when you're going to go in, there's 5 things I'm going to want you to do. I'm going to want you to establish chemistry and rapport. The better you do that, the better the chances. And I always tell them, I want you to fast forward 10 years from now. You're now a manager. You're interviewing 5 people for a key position reporting to you. You have 2 candidates at the end. Both of them have equal experience. Both of them can do the job. Both of them are equal in every single way, but all you have is one job. What's going to be the tiebreaker for you? And I guarantee the tiebreaker for you is the one that made the best personal connection with you. That is number one. Number two, how much better would you do on a test if you had the answers to the test before you interviewed? Okay. A lot
Yeah.
of candidates go in and they think automatically what the company is looking for is what I read on the job profile. Now, that job
Hmm.
profile was put together by someone in talent
It
acquisition or
sure
someone in
was.
early on. If you can say something like this, I was really excited about coming in here and meeting with you today. I've read the job profile inside out, but I'm just curious, what's most important to you in the background of the candidate that you want to hire for this key position? And before that interview is over, you make sure that you key those things, those 2 or 3 things that that person told you. Make sure you hit their hot buttons. Number three, be prepared to ask really good questions. And let me give you 3 or 4 really good questions. Number one, how is success measured in this position? Number two,
Mm.
is there anything I can be doing before I start? Start from a research perspective, from a homework perspective that might allow me to hit the ground running a little faster, to add value a little quicker. Number three, we're at the Christmas party a year down the road or the holiday party, and I hear you saying to one of your peers that I was the best hire you ever made. What would I have accomplished in
Mm.
that first year to make you make a comment like that? Make sure you have really good questions that separate you. Also, be prepared to answer their questions using a behavior-based response.
Hmm.
Meaning, be prepared to give them a situation, an action that you took based on the situation, and a result based on your action. At the end of the meeting, okay, I want you to know everybody who interviews will have some sort of concerns about the person they're interviewing.
Yeah.
But you have to understand how to ask the question at the end. So here's how I want you to do it. I want you to tell them, before I came in, I was really excited about the interview. After spending time with you, my interest has only gone up, and here's why. Based on what you told me you were looking for, here's why I think I'm a really good match. Do you have any concerns I can add value to XYZ company in this role? If the concern is false, I want you to overcome it and get agreement. It's no longer a concern. If it's real, I want you to minimize and maximize your strengths. Let's
Mm,
talk about those. And at the end, you got to close for the next step. Here's
yeah.
how you close for the next step. 5-step process. The better you get at these 5 steps, okay, the better you are and the better you will do in these interviews.
If every candidate would just take that advice and it's not that hard, it would be a lot more competitive out there, I'll tell you. Those are amazing tips.
It's a skill like any other skill you got to
It is.
develop. But no one, people go on interview, they ask their dad or their mom or their aunt, can you help me with this, right? Become a
Right.
grandmaster of interviewing
Yeah,
because it's going to help you get the job you really want.
it is. And I think too, I think it's important for candidates to understand they should be genuine as well. They should do all of those things that you said, but be themselves at the same time. Because
Established
if
before,
you
yeah.
oversell yourself, you're going to get fired in the first 30 days, or, you'll quit because it's not going to be a match, because you weren't really providing them with the accurate
I just want them to leave
version of
there.
yourself.
I said, I want you to leave this interview either knowing why you're not a match and why. I don't want you to leave in this interview thinking you did great and not hearing back. You know what I mean? I want you to manage it. There's a way of controlling it a little bit that will help you, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Phenomenal.
I will share with you something, right?
Yeah.
My publisher, when they put me on the original podcast tour, they always said to me, got to ask how many shows have they done, how big their audience is. All right.
Yeah.
We don't want you to do anything below this. When you reached out to me, I read your profile and I said, I want to do this no matter what, because you were in my industry. I saw what you were doing as far as helping other women. I knew you were a single mom. I'm like, this is a lady I'd like to meet. So thank you for having me as a guest.
'Cause I used to keep everything very closed off, my personal life and my professional life. Now that I've opened up that side, it's just more relatable, and I never expected uh, to be more supported in those things. I always thought, "Oh, you have to be professional when you're in your job." That's exactly what I don't want anymore, and I want this podcast to just be us having a conversation, you being yourself, and I learned so much from you just by doing that. So if I had had a cookie cutter regimented Q&A, I'm not sure that I would have gotten as much out, and I think that people are gonna get a lot out of this too. You are phenomenal, Jean. Jean, one last question. What do you wanna be remembered for?
I want to be remembered for when people asked for help, that I helped.
Love it. Simple. I think that you're accomplishing that. I don't know how long we've been talking.
No,
It feels like it flew by, but I thank you so much. This was just such a great chance to meet an industry success, and I can see why. You seem to have done everything right, and you continue to do so. So thank you so much for hanging with me, and again being number one.
I wish you the best of luck.
Thank
If I can
you.
help you with anything, now that we've made this connection, you have my email. Just reach out. Whatever I can do to help you, Tiffany. All right.
Careful what you tell me here, Jean. Okay.